From the missing to the mesmerizing, here comes little Timmy Senor and the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Here he is, the man, the myth, and the legend, Tim Senor. And, of course, we have our good friend, Mr. Rob G. from the Social Dig, sticking around for the UFO report as well. Thank you, Rob, for sticking around. And thank you, Timmy, for joining us once again, because it's only about 72 hours before you're on Canadian soil, my man.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I have not.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, wild stuff trekking up there looking for the big hairy man. Not you, Dave.
No, we're going to go find our own Rob G up here in the forest. Very beast that he is.
Man, I wish Rob was coming with us.
That'd be fun.
Oh, maybe next time.
I need a bodyguard.
Yeah, I heard somebody said something about Tim being a sleeping bag burrito or something along those lines.
Tim Bate.
We have Samantha Mowat, who will be the bodyguard for Tim. Samantha's only about 5'3", about 110 pounds soaking wet.
Unbelievable.
But I'm looking forward to it. Tim, we bring you on, though, for the UFO news, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now, man.
There's
a lot of stuff. Tell us about this new amendment.
Yeah, and you and Rob have been covering the news really well. Thank you for doing so. Rob, you're just stellar sitting in the UFO passenger seat and also as the captain of the UFO ship. Thank you so much for covering. It's been really fun watching the UFO report with Rob G. That I enjoyed. So,
no problem, Tim. Glad, big shoes to fill. Glad I could step in for you, man. You stepped in for me a lot of times too. So, got love for you.
Right on. Well, it's gonna be fun again. Excuse me. We'll have some fun tonight. So,
Let's do it.
You guys kind of covered it a little bit, but we're going to talk about the New York Times article here with the headline that bipartisan measure aims to force release of UFO records. And so legislation being backed by Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, would create a review board to declassify documents related to unidentified aerial phenomenon across the government. And so Chuck Schumer of New York, the Majority Leader, is pushing legislation to create a commission with broad authority to declassify government documents about UFOs and extraterrestrial matters in an attempt to force the government to share all that it knows about UAP. And so the measure offers the possibility of pushing back against the conspiracy theories that surround discussions of UFOs and fears that the government is hiding critical information from the public. And so Schumer will introduce as an amendment to the annual defense policy bill, has bipartisan support, by the way, including that of Senator Mike Rounds, Republican of South Dakota, Senator Mark Rubio, Republican of Florida, and they have both championed and campaigned towards legislation that has forced the government to release a series of reports on UAP. And so on Wednesday, the chamber, including a narrow measure in its version of the annual defense bill that would push the Pentagon to release documents about UAP. So I think this is a great push. We've been looking for something like this. Will it bring forward any historical documents related to UFO? Would it be more evidence? And is it something weighty enough to swing Congress in any kind of accords in their belief on whether they should spend more to look into this deeply, or if this is going to be enough to change some minds? And then what's next? But I think that this is a great push. I'm definitely in massive support of this measure because it'll be interesting to see what kind of information they uncover and how much of it they make public. So, Dave, why don't I let you kick this one off? I know you touched on it briefly. I'm rather enthusiastic. I'm sure you're about to quell that, but please, your opinion.
Well, you're kicking off the week on a tough one right here. I will say this. I will say that when it comes to the government, I'm very happy that this is becoming more and more of a bipartisan issue. Okay. Like even recently, Tim, you and I talked a couple months ago, where even on Twitter, there were people saying that if you support one side of the ledger, you shouldn't be involved in ufology. And now we're seeing the big boys and girls step up to the plate saying that, this is a bipartisan effort. This is something that affects every American, doesn't matter which party you affiliate with. That's the good news. The good news is that they want to start bringing out more information. I just don't think whether you're Chuck Schumer or you are Congressman Tim Burchett, who really doesn't have a say in all of this, okay, because defense budget and the defense spending has nothing to do with what he does in Washington, D.C. I'm positive that the reactions that this is starting to cause is going to start blowing up a little bit. Okay, it's going to make people take a look and see if there is anything there, whether they're deniers of it, whether they don't want to talk about it. And the other thing too is this is going to spread around the world, okay, because it's going to force other governments to ask the question, do we have UFOs? The big thing that I did notice with Chuck Schumer's last statement is the fact that he, and maybe Tim, you notice this too, because I brought this up with Rob G the other night, is that he separated UFOs and UAPs. Did you notice that too?
I did indeed. And he also tends to kind of come out and state that the American public has a right to learn about not just the UFOs, but the related technologies.
Yes.
I find that incredibly bold statement.
But I mean, we're starting to see more and more of this, Tim. Like everybody wants to be on the side of the up and coming, or the popular side of everything. UAP this, UAP that. Great, you're going after man-made objects, because even the politicians are calling them UFOs. They're not calling them UAPs. The odd one does, like Marco Rubio. Okay, but the majority of them are calling them UFOs. Not because it's easy, not because it's been there, because they know there is a difference between what is man-made with a UAP and what is not. And I hate to keep bringing back that argument. I hate that. I hate recycling old stuff. But the fact is, when it comes up, we have to bring it up. We have to. The other thing, too, with this information, though, is there is a timeline on it, Tim. There's a 25-year timeline for disclosure of what information that they have. That's the same thing as Donald Trump when he was supposed to release the JFK files. And he released about 95% of them, but the 5% of the juice we didn't get. And it's still a mystery today. So does that happen when I'm 75 years old? Okay. And Donald Trump is running for his 17th presidential campaign, and Joe Biden is still, falling asleep every 10 minutes. What happens then? What happens then? I don't know.
Well, I'm very interested to bring Rob in and hear his opinion, although I did hear a little bit of it briefly. I'd love to go in depth with him. But I would hate to also see the topic of disclosure or transparency become a political platform. And I hate to see this time of year certain politicians coming out and saying that they're listening to the public and this is what they want. But then when it comes time to cast their vote, they suddenly become silent and don't even understand the difference between UAP and UFO. But Rob, I'd love to potentially bring you in on this. What do you think about this push to try and declassify government documents to try and force the hand and show Congress that there is a history here?
Yeah. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm just glad, just for starters, that we're having the conversation and that we have, like I stated the other day, with Schumer being the most senior person in the Senate, that we're actually talking about this. There it may be pie in the sky as far as the promises that are being made, but only time will tell. I mean, the best thing we could do at this point, and the only thing we can do really, is to wait and see how this plays out. But I am at least optimistic because we have more and more people in the Congress and the Senate that are willing to make a push, have the conversation. Now, whether it's all politics or not, I guess we'll see. We'll soon see. So, yeah.
And can I just follow up briefly? And Dave, I'd love to get your input on this too. While we're on this topic, why do you feel like it's important for this topic to be in front of lawmakers? What is it that, in best situation, even if they accepted this as a reality, what is the best thing that we could expect from Congress as a result?
Well, I think the best thing we could get is support about bringing the information forward. We have not yet, Tim, seen the military industrial complex come out and talk about this yet. I would hate to be one of those senators or Congress people who comes out and gets the phone call and says, "Hey, you remember when your last election we moved the tires from the F-35s to be manufactured into your states, and it employed 640 people. Really hate to see that contract head back to Detroit, Michigan." I think this could lead to a lot of posturing. And, I always hate to sound critical or negative, but I'm trying to find the positive of what can happen here. But there's so much glowing negativity and what ifs with all of this. What if we don't get the truth? What if what if they talk again behind closed doors and don't give the public anything? What if the military industrial complex comes out to play? That's what goes through my mind, is what if all of this happens? Is it great that they're talking about it? Yes, of course it is. But what is the course of action to talk about this subject if you're not going to release what you know? That's the hard one for me, my man. They don't want to release anything. They want to keep it all behind closed doors. Why do you get to know? So you're saying, Tim Burchett, if you're going to have these closed door meetings on the 26th of this month with Congressperson Luna, and you guys get to hear all the juice, I elected you to speak for me. I elected you to be my voice. I didn't elect you to be my noise-canceling headphones. And that's what bugs me about all of these hearings, is why is it so damn public? Like, look, we know David Grush went and spoke in front of the hearings. We didn't learn about David Grush from the hearings. We learned about David Grush because he came out on his own for whatever reason he chose. And, of course, due to his NDAs, he was briefed on what he can and cannot say. He wasn't elected. He chose to do that. Yet the elected officials, who are put there to be representatives of the people, are the ones who are talking tough, yet are the ones holding the most secrets. Where's the fairness in that?
No, you're absolutely right. And I do think that potentially a lot of the secrets are, still well hidden in private industry. And I know we're coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes, and we're going to ask some of those hard questions when we come back. And I've got a couple of stories that may lead us down the path to truth on some of this. But I am very much, open to talking about what Ross Coldhart has recently brought forward, where some of the evidence is potentially hiding in very plain sight. And if that's the case, then, where is it? And if Raytheon does have something interesting, at some point their feet are going to be held to the fire, and they're going to either have to bring it forward or it's going to be demanded. And if by the time we get there, they've hidden it, where are you going to hide something like that, and how?
Well, there's a lot of questions that go along with that, though, Tim. Okay, if let's say Raytheon has bits and pieces of crash retrievals, how did they get them? Why did the U.S. government give their property to a private firm? Why? Because normally they do that for one reason, to keep it out of the public, because private companies do not have to speak publicly about their relationships with the United States government. And if Raytheon, being part of the military industrial complex, has any say about it, wouldn't you look at somebody like Tim Burchett in Tennessee and say, hey, Raytheon, if we've got 240 employees, do we really need that place there? Can we get that done with some budget cuts and maybe move some of these families out of Tennessee? If I'm a military industrial complex company, I'm looking at it. I ain't speaking. Hold on, guys. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour as we got another 30 minutes of the UFO report with our good friend, little Timmy Senor, and Mr. Rob G from the Social Dig hanging on out with us still. He wants to go the distance. He wants to know what it feels like to do 3 hours of SOR. His red chin hair getting redder by the minute. The UFO report continues with Tim Senor next on the Mighty SOR. Stay tuned. Hello, Coley. How are you? Who else has jumped in here late? Eva.
Rob, it's so cool hanging with you.
Oh man, it's so cool being here. You know what I mean? It's a little, and it's different because, I'm usually obviously used to hosting.
Yeah.
But to be a guest is a little different. It's a little different.
And Mateo would be sitting where Dave is sitting usually.
Exactly.
He's better
Mr.
looking
Mateo.
than me. That's why I couldn't have him on.
It's pretty tough to beat those Mateo looks, actually. I'm with you.
Yeah. Where is he at?
Oh, he's there.
Yeah, because he's on the East Coast. So
He's staying
for
up.
him, it's almost 3. Yeah, he's representing for the Social Dig, man. I appreciate you, Mateo. You know that.
It's good stuff.
Very good stuff.
Yeah, Rob and I talk all the time. We were actually just talking the other day about some pretty other level stuff. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way your brain works. I really do. And yeah. Sometimes I'll come at you one way. By the end of the conversation, I'm like, I never thought of that, and I'm all turned around. I'm like, I got to start over.
That's what a good conversation does for you. You know what I mean? It goes the same way. You've brought some things to me where I'm like, whoa, I'd never considered that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that's why we have such a great time over on the Social Dig. It's always great when you're over there, and we got to get Dave over there here sometime soon. I got a list of questions for you, Dave. I'll put you in the hot seat.
I don't have any answers. I am just I am void of answers right now. Void of answers.
Yeah, I got
Give
some.
him a week or two.
Dave, what do you think are the origins of Sasquatch?
I don't think they're human. I don't think they're man-made. I don't think they're earthly.
Do you think that they're terrestrial creatures?
No.
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 Okay. Do you think they're visible to everyone?
Yes. When
Okay.
they want to be. When they want to be.
Okay. Okay. Do you think, in your experience,
Look, drill me here. Go ahead.
that these Sasquatch, these ETs, cryptids, paranormal, do you think that they're all linked?
Yes. 100%.
Okay. And are they linked to the human consciousness, do you think?
No, they're connected to the phenomena which the human consciousness is a part of.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Love it.
Top 3 things trending on Twitter right now. On my side, disclosure, UAPs, and Grush.
As it should be.
What do you think about that, Timmy? Timmy.
Typical. Crush has been trending for quite a while. Yeah,
Timmy, what do you think of the new look of the studio?
I'm digging it. I like the angle. This is your original view,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. The original
digging
view, with the exception of the alien face, courtesy of Kira. And I put the our little pin board up finally, so that way we can start marking where everybody is from.
Hey, that's cool.
It is, yeah.
And this side here, I got to get a spaced out radio logo made.
What if you're not on that map?
And you could go to, the ice wallet of Antarctica, right?
I was just gonna say, wouldn't it be cool if you could point off screen? Here's where I'm from, right over here.
I am from
Exactly.
right here. Right
Oh
there.
yeah, that's pretty
Ah,
good. That's
yep.
some good pointing.
It sure is.
He's got it down.
Mm-hmm. Sweet Tony D is from right here. Ozzy Ange is from right here.
Her name is a dead giveaway.
Yeah, let's see. Who else can we put? People from Texas are right here.
You're just tickling the U.S. under the chin right there.
And then Kira from Oregon is right there.
She's right above me,
Yep.
who is also in Oregon.
Les Paul Holland from Australia is from right here. All right, we got like 5 seconds. Hold on, guys. Here we go. Second. The last segment. I think that the last segment of Spaced Out Radio. Don't know where the heck I was thinking of. Sorry about that confusion there. But you know what? We're going to continue with the UFO report right now with little Timmy Senor and from the Social Dig, Rob G. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Timmy, bipartisan measures aim to force release of UFO records. Are you buying this?
I mean, I'm in. I hope that we get something interesting. I would just like to hear the final word on Roswell. Let's just get, the facts straight. I think that would be great. Then we can move on. And, I feel like that's the sort of thing that we need to be able to put a pin in. If we're going to, let's start at least there, right? Let's go to 1933 since Grush brought it up. But I think Roswell's the big one. because, you know, we can determine a lot from that. If that was a real crash incident, you know, then there's craft involved and bodies involved. And then there's the whole cover up that they need to talk about. So, you know, I think that's pretty massive. I'm definitely looking forward to that, and hopefully they make it public.
Well, let's see if they do. Let's see if they do. I mean, will they make it public? Rob, are you thinking that we're going to see more of it come in public?
So let's just go along with this, and assuming that this is the plan, they're definitely going in here to release information. I would think they should. Roswell will probably be one of the easiest ones to validate, since they've already told us that they retrieved crashed discs, and that we are under the impression by witnesses that they have also taken bodies. So that should be the easiest one to confirm. But there's a long list of other ones that I think, you know, they should definitely release as well. So, you know, I understand this is their intent, but I guess we have to wait and see if this is what they're going to actually do. Is this one of those kick the can down the road moments where we're just waiting for them to do this? Or are they going to actually come through with the data this time?
Well, the question is, what is that data? Because here's the problem. Everybody wants something different. Tim, what you want is different from what I want, which is different from what Rob wants, which is different from these politicians, where the majority of them that are getting into this subject are still very, very virgin to this subject. They don't understand crash retrievals. They don't understand ET contact. They don't understand what pilots mean. Now, I think Tim Burchett has done enough homework to understand where he is sitting there saying, open the doors. We got aliens. We need to open the doors and let the public know we got some aliens. Because he's pretty much said that. But the majority of them do not. They don't get it. They don't want to get it. They don't understand it. You know, so the question is, when we talk about a disclosure movement, whose disclosure? It ain't my disclosure. My disclosure would be exactly like Tim Burchett's, which is open the doors on everything. We have a right to know. Not just as Americans, because I'm not American, but as people of the world. We have a right to know. Your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think we know. I think we know, and yeah, disclosure, I think, is another word for the government to finally just be truthful. I think that's more of what what disclosure is, and not necessarily the confirmation of extraterrestrial presence, but more so of the government being able to redeem themselves and show that they can tell the truth, and that they have our best interests at heart, and they care about where we go as humanity. You know what I mean? I think that maybe we can, just like they tried to rebrand UFOs to UAPs, we could rebrand disclosure as them disclosing the information to show that they can be truthful, and they can be, you know, care about humanity.
Timmy?
I like that. Yeah, that would be great. I do think disclosure has changed, and I feel like it, you know, that term has been, you know, rebadged, if you will. But I feel like it's changed to more the terms and conditions that have been outlined by our government, not so much by what the public deems disclosure. Because if they think that, you know, very blanket statements from whistleblowers without any kind of evidence at all, other than just vague statements on things that exist, that's really not going to be good enough. And that's not disclosure, right? That's actually counterintuitive to what disclosure is. Disclosure would be now revealing all those details and how you got all of the information and your sources and things like that. So I think we need to be very careful that we don't let them decide what disclosure is, because I think that it won't be what we consider disclosure. But I think that, moving forward, some of the things that we're seeing, the House oversight hearings on UAP, I think that's going to be helpful. Hopefully, what we do see are some whistleblowers that do come forward, or maybe Grush again, being asked some questions from a panel, not just Representative Luna or Burchett, but maybe others, even some public questions. That would be great. But, that I think is really tough. It's tough because we don't all agree on what disclosure is at this point. And definitely whistleblowers is not enough. We need witnesses, the firsthand witnesses too, at
Let me
least.
ask you guys something, if you don't mind. Tim Burchett is known as an extreme right wing politician, Republican. He's very anti LGBTQ plus. He's very anti abortion. He's very anti Democrat. He's very anti woke. He's very outspoken. He talks politics in one hand with the Holy Bible in his next hand, and this really rocks a lot of people the wrong way because a lot of people believe that the church and state should be separated. Okay, and yet here he is literally going on the most wokest platform he can in ufology by saying open up the doors to everything. Where do you guys stand on that? Because I know there are people out there right now in the Twitterverse who wish that he would go away because his political values are so not what ufology needs.
Yeah, I think really he's chosen this as a platform simply because he believes that the American public has been lied to. And he says that over and over and over. And it not isn't necessarily just this topic that he feels like we've been lied to about. This just happens to be a platform that he feels it's really been buried, and it's pretty deceitful because it's got a long line of abuse and dollar abuse, and I think that that's really been his biggest platform. But what do you think, Rob?
It's always tricky when it gets into politics. Now, here's what I'll say. I think political views aren't necessarily how a person really feels. I think that those are positioned with agendas in mind and for political movement. But I think something like what he's stepping up against with wanting this disclosure or wanting this information to be released to public is the actual human emotion. So I think that's a human emotion, but I think political views are not necessarily personal feelings. You understand what I'm trying to say with that?
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. But unfortunately, there are people who can't seem to let that go either.
Yeah, those are the people who that's why they say leave politics out of it, because it gets so convoluted and then it just turns into an argument immediately. And that's why a lot of people stray away or stay away from politics, because you don't know what the real intentions are for a political view or something that's being said. So that's why we have to separate the two. And those critics should separate the two as well. We're talking about political posturing and movements versus actual human emotion. If this guy leaves the Congress tomorrow and just becomes a citizen, then we don't look at political views. That's why I say it's social dig. We don't care what side you're from, what walk of life you're from. You come in as a human being. You leave all that stuff at the door, and that's how we should be looking at Tim Burchett. Separate the politics from actual human emotion, and it's obvious that somewhere in there he cares about humanity.
100%. It's a bipartisan topic. Everyone's agreeing on it. Let's focus on the issues.
There you go.
And I hope that can come true. I really do. All right, Tim, what do you got for us next?
So the House oversight hearing on UAPs has been scheduled for July 26th. And so representatives have come forward to confirm that. And so Representative Luna has also confirmed that this will take place on the 26th. And both Burchett and Luna have been assigned to take the lead on that UFO investigational hearing. So, Congress wants to investigate UFOs after the claims made by David Grush, and part of the oversight committee that have been put together will be working on that exact topic. And half of this, at least, will be arranged hearings on the topic of what was brought up by some of the admissions brought forward by David Grush. And so, it does look like there will be other people that will be coming forward at that time as well. Although the people that came forward to talk on this were not willing to give any of those names publicly at this time. So it does look like John Kirby, the National Security Council's coordinator for strategic communications for the White House, also said that UAPs have been considered a legitimate issue for the Biden administration, and in a quote says that we wouldn't have stood up an organization at the Pentagon to analyze and try to collect and coordinate the way these sightings are reported if we didn't take it seriously. So, of course, we do. And so that's kind of good news. It's just that those are the kinds of things that we need to hear publicly, because usually we get a Speaker of the House or somebody that's representing publicly just shrugging it off or having reporters laugh on this topic when it's brought forward in some of the public hearings that we're getting with some of the press. So it's good that they're going to be analyzing some of the data that's been brought forward. And I say data publicly, we didn't get any of it, but behind closed doors, there is supposedly some data that is going to be looked at, and then we'll get the public portion of that hearing here on the 26th. So good news there that we're getting another hearing. I know that we shouldn't expect too much on the public side, but the little bits that we do get will hopefully move this topic forward in a way, at least, that we're getting some more transparency, and hopefully we get firsthand witnesses this time and not more hearsay.
Once again, I hope, if I put my positivity hat on here, I think this is the biggest chance that we're going to get for the next while regarding true information. Burchett wants the information. He's convinced that Luna wants the information too. And just like we just talked about moments ago, I think this is the biggest one to date. We know that Senator Gillibrand did her best. She got nothing out of Sean Kirkpatrick, except an update on how many reports there were. There's just so much, I really hope they come out firing. But the question is, who are they coming out firing to? Who do they fire up? So if they get a bunch of whistleblowers in there just telling a bunch of anecdotal stories, is that enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the stories they need to hear, though. I mean, the first couple hearings, you bring in guys from the DOD, you bring in Kirkpatrick. These are the guys you want to ask questions to. These are the guys that have the least reason to want to give up any information. It's not in their concern how everyone else feels or benefits from this. So being that this will be the first one that involves actual whistleblowers, I think we'll get something that looked a little more like what we saw with the citizens hearing for UFO discovery or whatever that was in 2013 at the National Press Club, the thing Stephen Bassett put on. When you watch that, you saw essentially people from within the government who retired, who had information on things that they saw. and how riveting that was. Those the stories that were being told in front of Congress or former Congress. I think that this would probably have the same effect. So every hearing that we have needs to be whistleblower testimony going forward.
Yeah. Representative Anna Paulina Luna from Florida has two goals for the House hearing into UFOs, and she's scheduled to co-chair that, obviously, this the 26th. And in a quote, she says, "So what we're focusing on is, one, getting the information out to the American people that clearly this is a big galaxy that we live in, and there is very likely technology that we are unaware of and where it's from. And so, does this pose a national security threat? And number two, hang on one moment. Number two, it's important that instead of trying to make this conspiratorial and poo-pooing it, the people are actually understanding that it's very likely that there are other life forms out there and that we're not alone in this universe and that we can address these things with scientific mindset." So when you hear something like this coming from a representative on leading this committee, do you feel that potentially she already has her mind made up and that she's very driven potentially? Maybe she's had an experience that made her believe this topic a little bit more than everyone else. But hearing her talk this way, do you feel like it's going to help this topic or potentially hurt it, because there are people that are hearing her talk this way before she's heard evidence?
That's a good question.
That with 2 minutes to go here, that is a very deep question, Tim. Very deep. See, the thing is, for me, Luna, Congressperson Luna, has come out of nowhere to now be a part of this conversation. Do we have to restart and fill this person in on everything now? Or does Luna already have that information and is now jumping on board to give a crutches of support for Tim Burchett? This is what I don't know.
Right. And we've seen how public hearings have gone in the past, and it was with somebody that was very much skeptical and uninformed. And if now we're having someone very much on the other side, non-skeptical, but still potentially uninformed, we don't know. Even if they're informed, that's leading the path in a similarly not helpful way. I feel that there needs to be an element of neutrality on this topic. And yes, I like that she's bringing up the fact that science needs to be the mindset, but at the same rate, we can't assume that these things are coming from somewhere else. We can't even assume that there are things because we have yet to see them. So let's start back at the beginning before we address this as being something that exists. Let's make sure it exists, and then we can talk about it in a real way. I think that this is jumping the gun, and I hope that we come up with the evidence at some point so that we can sit back and hit cruise control.
Great point. I agree with Tim Senor.
Sorry. That kind of was a period at the end there, but I would love to get your thoughts, because we've seen them really drop the ball in the past with these public hearings. Do you think that we're going to be ill-prepared again, or do you think that this is going to go better?
Well, I think it's going to go better, but you make a great point, saying that we still need some neutrality in there. But I think what we're going to find out is, like I was saying earlier, people in the government, these are human beings too. So these people have their own experiences, and I think that's going to be the game changer when you have those people, the ones that have experienced things, coming out saying, "Hey, not only am I pushing for this, but I had an experience myself." And then I think that's when things are going to really start rolling, and when you get that ball rolling down the hill.
That's a great point. And what if Lou Elizondo came forward as a whistleblower or a witness and admitted he was an experiencer in public hearing? I mean, that would be kind of the bombshell, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Huge bombshell. Gentlemen, thank you. We're going to wrap up the UFO report tonight. Tim Senor, little Robbie G coming on in. Appreciate both of you for making this an incredible show tonight. Thank you so much, my man.
Thank you.
Then on that note, I'm going to start to wrap this thing up because it is that time where we say, we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elga, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.